Dean and Jodie, how did you find carnivore?
Well, we were not looking for it, that's for certain. What happened about 10 or 15 years ago, I had gotten really fat and I said, I need to lose some weight. And I'd heard about this carnivore thing. So I said, I'm going to try it. And this is typical me. So I bought a whole bunch of potted meat and Vienna sausages and deli meat and all the natural things we have around here. And I ate that for about 4 or 5 days and got sick as a rat. I said, this is terrible. And I didn't try it at all after that. Then we went back to the standard American diet, and it's pizza and burgers and french fries and baked processed foods and stuff like that. Then we just went on our merry way. And so by 2022, things had gotten kind of bad, kind of a perfect storm. I'm a high school history teacher, or I was. And every day I drove 45 minutes one way to school. And on the way, I passed 15 fast food restaurants. And I'm thinking, man, a Bojangles biscuit sure would be nice on the way to school. And I would get that and some potato cakes or whatever and a Coke. And I'd get to school and I'd make 10 pots of coffee, a big thing of coffee, and I'd drink all of it throughout the day. For lunch, I'd have some type of processed food, something in a can or whatever. On the way home, I'd say, some french fries sure would be nice. And I'd eat some french fries or something on the way home. Jodie would get home around 7, and then she would cook dinner, and then I would eat that. And by 2022, I was over 450 pounds. That's as far as the scales went. I don't know what I was over that. And I'm 6'1", and I had high blood pressure. I was on medication for that. I was type 2 diabetic, and my doctor was just assured I was going to drop dead any moment. And I couldn't walk 100 feet without getting out of breath. We had upstairs in our house. I couldn't go up it. I was just too fat. But that wasn't the main reason we're here. The main reason we're here is that Jodie was beginning to show signs which were very troubling. The main sign for me was when we were on the road at night, she thought a car would be in our lane, or she couldn't judge the distance of a car that was like 100 yards away. She thought it was on top of us. And at work, Jodie, do you want to tell them what was going on at work with you?
It was really hard for me to do my documentation. I was working as a nurse practitioner in a cardiology office, and we had a new computer system put in, and it took me forever to learn how to use it. And then I wasn't cleaning up messages fast enough. I dealt with the problem, but I didn't take them off my computer, and kind of freaked everybody out, and they ended up firing me. Which was devastating.
Tell them what they said to you.
They said I wasn't safe.
Not safe to practice medicine. And we're devastated. And this was in March of 2023. And that was our only clue that something was wrong. I was just thinking, well, she's just, she's getting older. She's in her mid 50s. And we're thinking, wow, and I kept thinking, Jodie, what's wrong? She went to Vanderbilt, highest honors. I mean, she's smarter than I am. I just couldn't understand it. But so what she did, she had a month to clear up her charting before she was finally let go. And so we had all this blood work done through the hospital. And in June of that year, her primary doctor said, you need to come in and see me. There's something wrong with the blood work, the labs that you did. And they came in, and do you remember what she said that you had? Was it the amyloid light chain?
I had something called elevated kappa light chains. So that sent me to a oncologist, and he did more testing and said that it could be a disease called amyloidosis, which is fatal. There's no cure for it. And then they did more testing, CT scans, PET scans, spinal taps, all this kind of stuff. And they found out it wasn't cancer. It wasn't amyloidosis. It was Alzheimer's.
Yeah. And that was in December of 2023. And the cognitive testing they did said she had a 14 MoCA score. Are you familiar with what those are?
I'm not.
Okay. It's called the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. It's where you draw a clock and they give you words to memorize and things like this. They're trying to measure your memory and your cognitive reasoning and so forth. If you're from a 30 to a 27, you're considered normal. Some people just have better memories than others. But if you get from 25 down to 20, is considered mild cognitive impairment. You're slipping. If you get to the teens, you're slipping a lot. If you're getting to single digits, you don't know who your children are. Jodie was a 14 at this point. She was gone down pretty far.
Really fast.
Yeah, and she was going down fast. And at this point, I didn't know anything. I'm a history teacher. I don't know anything about this stuff. I've never met anybody with Alzheimer's, at least to my knowledge. It doesn't run in her family or my family. So, and she's only 58 years old at this point. So I started thinking, what do we do here? Well, at the Alzheimer's clinic, they told her, said, don't eat sugar and exercise. And that's it. And they were able to get her into a study, a trial. And it's a machine that's called light and sound. And it pulses at 40 hertz into your eyes and your ears. And it's supposed to do something to your brain, break up the plaque or something of that nature. And it was a trial. And she did it for 6 months as a lot with a whole bunch of other people. And so while she's doing that, I'm trying to finish up school I'm going to go ahead and retire. I've taught for 35 years. I just retire and take care of my wife. And while I'm going to school each day, she's going further and further off the deep end. Among the things that she did, she had clothes that are color. She put bleach in them. She was taking food out of the freezer and just leaving it out and it'd ruin. And she was burning pots and pans and food and walking out the front door and leaving it wide open, just all sorts of crazy things. And this is when Jodie came back, she called it the darkness, because you described it as being in a dark room and being confused and not understanding what's going on. And do you want to, talk any more about that or?
Well, it was a pretty bad time and I got really depressed and everything. And then, I'll let you add in what we do with church.
Well, the first thing that we did, we're people of faith and our religion is very important to us. So we went to church and I read up on Alzheimer's, no treatment, no cure, 100% fatal. So we asked the pastor and some other people we really respect to, after church service, to gather around her and pray over her. And I don't remember what all was said, but people said various things praying for her. And we were hopeless at that point because, what do? You've been given a terminal, illness. And we've been married 35 years, 36 now. And so when you become very close to your spouse, you become one. You can finish your thoughts. You think in terms of we and us and I, not individual. And when one dies, you feel like the other one's dying with them. And that's where we were. And then things began to happen. Let's see, Jodie, what else I'm going to tell you. The first thing that we did was that I came across a person, I Googled, I don't know why I did it, Alzheimer's survivors. Then I saw a guy, he was on a TV show I don't really watch. It was called 700 Club, but it said Alzheimer's survivor. And he was a pastor, and his name was Richard Skoff, Skoff. And there's an interesting side story to this guy. And so I Googled it, and he was on the show, and he was talking about how he had Alzheimer's, and in the pulpit, he'd forget his sermons. He was having incidents with people. He couldn't remember how to dial a phone, write a check, until eventually the church said, you got to step down. And he prayed too, and he felt like God told him to go back to the basics, to eat healthy food. And through his lifestyle and food, he turned it around, and he did really well, really well. He didn't go carnivore, but he was eating like single item foods. And so I tried to find the guy and I couldn't, but I'm thinking if that guy can survive, there can be two. And about a month ago, I decided to look up and see, I wonder if he's still alive. And I found out a pastor, Richard Skoff, died of Alzheimer's in 2024. So I'm pretty sad, but hey, he made it from 2006 to 2024. That's pretty good. I don't know why, but I felt like Google him another day, and I did. And I found out, there are two Richard Skoffs, both of whom were pastors. The one that died lived in Missouri. The other guy lived in Ohio. I found his phone number. I've called him. He is sharp as a tack, and we've become friends since. And it's a pretty awesome story. So there's a guy he's in his late 70s now. So anyway, so we did that. And then I found another video of a guy named Dale Bredesen. Have you heard of him?
No.
Okay. Dale Bredesen is a neuroscientist, and he is like holy water to a vampire. If you mention his name to the Alzheimer's people, they don't like him. And he says this, he says, they offer false hopelessness. I'm offering you hope. And they say, and the Alzheimer's people say it's false hopeless or false hope. And so he had a Zoom call where he had 4 Alzheimer's survivors that have taken his protocol, which is eating all healthy foods and things like that. And these people have turned it around. So I've got 5 people I'm looking at that have beaten, I won't say beaten it. They have turned it around and are Alzheimer's. They're living with it and they're thriving. And that's what got me to begin to hope maybe there is something we can do. The other thing is that I did right before this, though, was that I didn't know anything about Alzheimer's, and I had started looking at videos of people that had it. The one that crushed me the most was a 60 Minutes, and there was a couple from Long Island, and she got Alzheimer's, and every year, 60 Minutes went back to their house, and they would look at her where she was progressed until like year 9. She was in a wheelchair. She couldn't communicate. She couldn't respond to anything. She was in a diaper. And I thought that was our future. Now I'm beginning to have hope. So what we did next was I found that. And so we see, where are we at here? Oh, here we are. And so Dale Bredesen's book is called The End of Alzheimer's. And I found him and another guy named Dr. Stephen Gundry. And both of those guys say that you need to eat a Mediterranean diet, a mind diet, something low in lectins, oxalates, things like that. And I was thinking, well, okay, we could probably do that. Jodie likes vegetables and things like that. And they said, get away from processed foods. I think we can do that. Then I found out about a woman called Dr. Mary Newport. Have you heard of her?
No, I haven't heard of her either.
Okay. Well, Dr. Mary Newport is a neonatologist. Her husband had Alzheimer's. I found her on a TED Talk, and now she's all over the internet. And she said her husband had Alzheimer's, and she showed a picture of a clock he drew, and it just looked like random circles, and he was really far gone. And she had dealt with premature babies, and she knew that if she gave premature babies something called ketones, and if she gave them MCT oil, that it would help their brains develop as a premature baby. What if I give that to my husband? What would happen? So she did. And she knew that you couldn't buy at that point from a store because you had to get it through coconut oil. So she started giving him that, and she showed 2 days later he could draw a clock. And he got well enough to where he could go back and he could volunteer at the hospital, and he was doing things again. And the change was remarkable. The only thing she changed was giving him coconut oil. And so he did very well. He would eventually die of Alzheimer's, but he got many good years out of it. So that was the first thing I did with Jodie, MCT oil. And so we bought a big thing of coconut oil, and I started buying MCT oil on the internet and started giving it to Jodie. Then I found a woman called the Glucose Goddess on the internet. Her name is Jessie Enchaspe. She's French. And she has a degree in, I think it's molecular biology. That's it. And she talks about glucose, which I know nothing about. I was a 6 Coke a drink, drink 6 Cokes a day and all that stuff. And I found out that not all glucose is created equal, that glucose is glucose is glucose. It just depends on how you get it and what it does to the body. And then I started learning about insulin and stuff. And I said, wow, we got to get Jodie off of this, because Dr. Mary Newport talked about type 3 diabetes being a possible cause of Alzheimer's. I said, well, I've got diabetes. I know what that is. So we decided to go ahead and make a decision that, I don't think I want to go to the Mediterranean diet, because the glucose goddess said fruit is some of the worst sugar you can put in your body, the fructose. And carbs you can get in vegetables. And if we're trying to keep our insulin down, we just need to get rid of that. So I'm beginning to lean heavily toward keto diet, and not the diet that Gundry and also Bredesen are recommending. So I said, if we can go get Jodie into something called ketosis, to where her brain can live off of ketones and not glucose, it would give her brain a fighting chance to come back. So then we decided to kind of head toward ketosis and go to a keto diet. Then I found another one called Dr. Boz. And she is really big into ketosis and fasting and something called autophagy, which I didn't know about. And autophagy can get rid of the misfolded proteins in your brain and clean out all the garbage in your brain. So we started going into ketosis and eating good meat and stuff. And Jodie didn't realize that I'm going to start doing this with or without her. And so one day my brother-in-law distracted her and my sister-in-law went to our pantry. And we had two.
This part.
You want to tell this part? Go ahead.
They got in my pantry and they took every carbohydrate out of my entire pantry. Every bit of flour, cookies, everything. I was so mad I wanted to murder them.
Throw them all in the garbage.
I can't not have cornmeal and flour and all this stuff. I was really, really mad. I had bad words for them.
It was not a kind day.
It was dangerous for them, but it was the best thing that could have happened. Absolutely.
So then I bought a freezer, got 2 freezers out there, and we went to Costco and loaded up on every kind of animal and fish that swim and filled up the freezers. And now we're going to start eating. Now, Jodie was still wanting to do keto, so she'd still eat the broccoli and slaw and a salad here and there, but there was no fruit and no carbohydrates. The only thing we would drink is distilled water and tea that was made with distilled water, and that was it. The results is that she came back from the darkness. She started doing laundry again. She started doing all the things she'd done around the house. She taught herself how to knit again. She started reading again, which she had lost the ability to do. She started writing and journaling again. She totally came back. And this is the tip of the iceberg of the things that we are getting ready to do. But so the only really big change at this point that we had done was we quit drinking fluoride in water. And then we started changing our diet and we went into ketosis. We measured our blood every day and the ketones, and she came back. But it's about to get better because we found another doctor on the internet. We keep digging and digging. And so we found a doctor by the name of Dr. Rhonda Patrick. And she has a couple of doctorates, I think, in something or another. But she taught me about heat shock proteins. And apparently, if you go into a sauna, there was a big study that was done in Finland, not the Nordic countries, just Finland, they have a much lower case of Alzheimer's than any other country like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Iceland. Why them? What do they do? Same diet, same people. Well, they have a religion called Finnish saunas where you get in there and they get as hot as they can and in cold showers. And so I went to Costco again and bought a Finnish shower and put it in upstairs. Then we get about 180 to 200 degrees and we get in there for about 20 minutes, go to a cold shower and come back. And we do that almost every day. And that has really helped. And we've become friends with a guy named Al Cranmer. And we spent the weekend with him a couple of weeks ago. And he told us that's what he has his patients do. And so we're doing a lot of the same things he's doing. And he's having the same results we are having. And so this was about January of 2025. Then we started including fasting. And so now we're OMAD carnivores. We eat 1 meal a day and we load up on it. And then we try to eat just once every 24 hours, but once a week we'll try to go 48 hours, occasionally 72 hours. And we find out we feel great. And I'm thinking, so the carnivore is our meal for the rest of our life. However, come Christmas, I fell off the carnivore wagon and I had lost at that point 155 pounds and I was no longer on any kind of medication. My blood sugar is normal. My blood pressure is normal. And come Christmas, for about a month and a half, I'd eat a donut because I just wanted a donut. And so I gained about 20 pounds back, but now I'm back on the carnivore, so not all is lost. But Jodie's been faithful all the way through. And she is just, everywhere she goes, people can't believe that has Alzheimer's, and she's 3.5 years in. And so we've got all these other things we're doing, like we use toxic-free soaps, we use aluminum-free deodorant, bamboo toothbrushes, nothing with fluoride. We don't use any plastic in our cooking prep, our food. We have only non-toxic, forever chemical-free ovens. Had our mercury fillings taken out. lots of supplements. And recently, we just got her on a CPAP for deep sleep. We got a gym we built, and then we bought a hyperbaric chamber, and she uses that every day now for about 3 months. So, and the next step is that we're going to probably use red light therapy where it's called V-light. You put something up your nose and wear a skull cap, and we're always looking for something new. And the key takeaway for me is I know Jodie's better. What I don't know is for how long. And I do not want to go to my grave wondering, what could I have done more? What did I miss? What did I not try? And have a regret. And I'm thinking what the medical world is offering is hopelessness. Maybe if Big Pharma can just find a drug and so we can make a bunch of money. And I know that they're not offering anything. What I do know is that through diet, which is the main thing that turned her around, and all the other things we're finding, I think that's the way to go. And I know there are people who are doing better. And if you go to Google or anything else, it says there are no survivors. There is no best. I beg to differ. I have found several people who have turned it around and are doing great.
Tell them about my Merkel score.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, her Merkel score, the last time they tested her, when she got done with that device she was using, it had gone up to a 24, which they said that doesn't happen. Nobody reverses it. Nobody. She has. And since then, they won't test her. I guess it's because we have refused. No, 24. And they won't test her. And they keep saying that she needs to go on infusion. She needs to go on medicines. And so we're not doing it. And they get kind of mad at us. And we're doing what we're doing and sticking to it.
So even though the score had gone up, they're still like, oh, yeah, you still got to do the medications.
Correct.
Yeah, and Dave, I actually had an argument with my doctor. I told her, she said I needed to take this one infusion. And I said, but that can make your brain bleed. And she said, well, it wouldn't necessarily be a bad bleed and it wouldn't necessarily kill you. And I said, oh, well, I'm not taking it.
She was not happy.
She was willing to risk my brain bleed or my death from it. Wouldn't be that bad. Just a little brain bleed.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now, you had someone else on your show, which I had found before you did, or she found you. It was Eileen from Strong Wise Good. I found her when she was doing her podcast. She used to be a teacher, and you heard her story on your show. I've been following her, but unbeknownst to her and unbeknownst to me, we were doing the identical same stuff, early morning sunlight. And I think she came to carnivore later than we did, but she's having the exact same results. I heard her on your podcast. She's doing great. And she also early onset Alzheimer's.
Yeah. So Jodie, what do you remember what it felt like for you when you first started changing the way you ate and you started wanting to read again and that kind of thing? Do you remember, was it a feeling of like, did the clarity just come back? It was like black and white kind of thing?
It just started coming back, and things that I hadn't been able to do for a couple of years, I was able to teach myself how to crochet again, and I was able to read better again. It's like the fog just lifted. And initially it was a little bit tough. I had ugly crochet. It was gross. But anyway, I just kept trying, and then I just kept working on the reading, and Dean and I kind of figured something out. What I do in the HBOT now is I read out loud. I'll read a book out loud to myself because it triggers your brain better. And I feel so much clearer and stuff. And it's very enjoyable. And it was terrifying before. I didn't want somebody to ask me to read something because I wasn't sure I could do it until we really cleaned up the diet. That seems to be the most intense thing that we did. I wasn't happy about it initially, but I feel so much better now. Gosh, it's amazing. I feel like I know what's going on,
One other thing is that when Jodie does go off the diet, the effects are almost immediate. We just celebrated our 36th wedding anniversary, and she said, I want a cupcake. I want a cupcake to celebrate our marriage. So I got her a cupcake. Tell her what happened.
I ate one bite of cupcake, and I was as fuzzy-headed as like I just had a pint of alcohol. It was that quick. I'm so sensitive. So I'm like, okay, well, that's it.
Yep.
Wow.
And same with bread. If I eat bread, yesterday I went on a hike with my sister-in-law and some friends, and there wasn't anything that didn't have bread at the place that we stopped for lunch. So I ate some cheese and a couple of small bites of bread, and I could tell it was starting to make me feel kind of just not confused, but just yucky. So bread messes me up. So I'm like, I can break up with bread now because it's just terrible for me. It's a carbohydrate.
Wow.
Duh. I'm that sensitive. It's almost like you're drunk. Really. It's
Mm.
something that simple.
That's because when you imagine when you start drinking
Mm.
and you can kind of
Yeah.
feel things
Criminal.
changing, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so it's kind of like that. This gradual feeling just gets stronger and stronger.
Yes, exactly.
What's
Wow.
interesting, Jody is so clear now. You're a husband. I'm a husband. I say, Jody, where's my wallet? And she knows exactly where it is. Can tell me. Or I say, Jody, did we get this the other day? And she said, yeah, we got it. Don't you remember it? Like that. She tells that to me now.
Right. Wow. And so for you, Dean, when Jodie had first changed the way she was eating, like, did you feel like there was this kind of almost like immediate change or like an on-off kind of
It was
switch?
hard to tell because at that point I had gone into protection mode. I was doing all the cooking. I had never cooked in my life,
He's a terrible cook.
and I'm terrible at it. But I bought a sous vide, which is where you just put the meat in a bag and you turn it on, let it cook prime ribs. And I learned how to make hamburgers and things. And I was really not gifted. And I was also doing laundry, which I had never really done. In the Navy, I did laundry, but I wasn't even good back then. And so I was doing all these things. And so I was so busy trying to make sure she was getting the natural supplements we had. And it was just very regimented. And I was focused on that. And I was just, I really wasn't picking up on the subtleties until I saw her over there one day reading a book. And I hadn't seen her do that in a long time. And she just picked up, just started reading. And I said, Jody, are you reading a book? She said, well, yeah. Well, of course I am. And I was like, and this was maybe about 2 months after we had started keto. I have noticed that when she's on carnivore, that she used to have inflammation in her knees and stuff. And now she doesn't ever talk about that, not much. And she's a lot more active. And the main thing about carnivore is we don't get hungry. You just don't.
And we pretty much just eat one a day.
Yeah.
It's satiating. It's very satiating. And I have plenty of energy now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, so how are you eating day to day? It's one meal, but is that like just red meat? Is that eggs?
A lot of eggs. I like making something, I call it an egg bowl, and I'll cook like a sausage patty and grind it up and mix it in with the eggs and some cheese, and it's delicious. It sounds kind of like what Eileen makes too.
Puts it into like a glass bowl. We put it into our forever cook chemical free microwave, and we cook it up, and it comes out like scrambled eggs with sausage in it. And we eat that about 3 days a week. And then another day she'll make about 4 pounds of bacon, and we'll just eat bacon, or we usually just eat one, whatever it is. We get one large serving of whatever it is and eat on that, and then we're done.
That's awesome. And so you've also there's no coffee. You're still drinking tea and water, and that's
Tea and water.
basically it.
Water.
Yeah. I quit coffee when I quit teaching. I was one of those strange people that only drank coffee at work. And never was really addicted, but I drank a lot of coffee. And so I don't touch it anymore.
Yeah. And I mostly drink tea because I put several supplements into it and make a pot of hot tea, and I'll mix up different brain supplements like creatine and MCT oil and collagen, and I'll stir that in while the tea's hot and then chug it.
Yeah.
So the creatine's really good for your brain, and so is the collagen, and the MCT oil is
The
great.
biggest negative thing about this is she takes about 20 supplements. All of them are natural, anything from lion's mane. And this is how I found all this stuff. I'd watch a show And you being, I think you're from Scotland, but you grew up in Australia. Is that right? I,
That's right.
okay. So there's a show called Top Gear, and there's a guy, Jeremy Clarkson. I don't know if you heard of him or not. He did a thing called Clarkson Farms, and I don't know if you saw it, Roz. It's a great show. But in one episode, he has a fallout shelter from World War II, concrete fallout shelter on his property. And he said, I think I can grow mushrooms in there. I think I'll grow lion's mane. And he said, it's supposed to be good for your brain. So I'll file that away. One day I typed in lion's mane Alzheimer's. Sure enough, a guy in Japan, where you are, did a study on it. He had, I think, 15 people on one side and 15 people in the placebo group and gave them lion's mane. All 15 people that had lion's mane improved drastically. And the people who didn't have lion's mane slid. Halfway through it, he flipped it. And the exact opposite happened. Said, good enough. She's on lion's mane. So everything I have given her I found it that way. And the only non-natural supplement is methylene blue. And I found out there's a lot of stuff coming out about that. And methylene blue, RFK Jr., it showed him using it on an airplane. There was a lot of conversation about that. So I looked it up, and sure enough, there's a pharmaceutical grade that they're doing a lot of research in conjunction with hyperbaric chambers and what it does to the microglia in the brain. And so that's the only pharma that she's on.
Wow. And so regarding the hyperbaric chamber, you've actually got a hyperbaric chamber at home now.
Yes.
It's like a tent. It looks like a tent you would camp in, but it has the oxygen's pressurized, and so I wear a oxygen mask while I'm doing it, and it's all zipped up and airtight while I'm in there. I'm in there for about an hour and a half.
About an hour and a half. It's a soft shell, and they have a hard shell, soft shell, and it all depends on what type of pressure you want. The soft shell goes up to 1.5 atmospheres. Hard shell is for anything higher than that. And the big question for me was, which one do I get? Which one's most beneficial? And I saw a guy, his name is, I think it's Byron Johnson, the guy who wants to live forever, doing all the blood tests and stuff. That guy. Well, he showed a video of him inside, and he did this study. He said of all the things he's done, hyperbaric chamber is the gold standard. It has changed. It's got more benefit than anything else he's ever done. And I said, all right, that's good. Now, which one do I need to get? So I found all sorts of videos, and it seems like 1.5 atmospheres is the sweet spot, which is great because a hard shell is about $50,000. So I got one, bought it from China, had it put in my house, got it put in, and she goes in there every day and she reads her Bible or reads a book out loud. And I'm sitting there and I'm reading, listening to her read, and we do it every day, and she's doing great. And so, yeah, hyperbaric chamber is the bomb.
Is it comfortable being in there, Jodie? Like how does it feel?
Yeah, it has kind of a cushion on the bottom. It's almost like a mat kind of feeling, but but the hyperbaric chamber, we have our sitting on carpet in a back bedroom. So I already had the carpet cushioning, and then there's a kind of a pad in the chamber itself. And I'm really tall. I'm almost 6 feet tall, or I'm what,
5'11".
5'11", yeah. But it's good and long, and it's got plenty of room on the sides. And sometimes if it's been a busy day, I'll read for a few minutes, and then I'll just take a nap till it's over, and he'll wake me up. And it's got little windows in it, so I can peck on the window and wave him over if something's not right.
It sound just the idea of the pressurization makes it sound like being in an airplane to me. Is it kind of like that?
Yeah, it is. And you can tell when the pressure goes up. When it gets to 1.5, sometimes my ears will start kind of giving that little squelchy kind of sound, with the airline pressure. And I'll just pinch my nose and kind of blow out a little bit, and it'll usually relieve it. And it's not, maybe once it's been kind of painful, but it's not bad. And the clarity it gives me in my brain is just amazing. So I'm like, it's worth my ear hurting for a few seconds. I don't care.
So, the great thing about this is obviously, your recovery, but also it just kind of reinforces what Hal Cranmer's been saying for so long about, it's all about diet. It's all about, like the hyperbaric oxygen chambers. It's all about all these things. So you actually met him.
Yeah, he had a conference at a nursing home conference in Nashville 2 weekends ago, and we live in Knoxville, and we offered to drive over there and be his personal Uber. And so we picked him at the airport and we drove around and took him to Andrew Jackson's home place and a thing called the Parthenon in Nashville, and just drove him around Nashville, home of country music and stuff. And then we had a meal with him that night, and he wrote a newsletter. And in the newsletter, this is what he does for a living. He deals with people with dementia and Alzheimer's. And his words meant more to me than anything a doctor would said. He said in his newsletter, he spent all day with Jodie and he could not detect any memory issues at all. And I'm thinking, so being a historian, this is how I took it. There was a guy by the name of Bob Ballard who used to be an underwater explorer guy for National Geographic. He's the guy who found the Titanic and many other ships. And in one episode, I saw him, they had found a old Phoenician shipwreck, and they called him in, and he said, I don't know what I'm looking at. So they brought in an archaeologist, and the archaeologist was looking at it, and he was getting all giddy and pretty excited. And Bob Ballard said this, and I thought it was profound. He said, I don't have any idea what I'm looking at, but I know enough to know if that guy's excited, it's something big. So when Hal Cranmer said Jodie doesn't have any memory issues that he could see, I don't know. I was a history teacher, but I know that he knows because he deals with it all day, every day. So that meant the world to me.
Yeah, it's such a big thing. And the the medical establishment, whether it's doctors, big pharma, whatever, they're in general, they're switched off to this, right? They're just, as you say, they're looking for a drug.
Yeah, they're hostile to it. They don't want to hear it.
We found a different physician since then that's more Bredesen directed and supplement directed, but she did a lot of testing on me to find out what my deficits were. Not just like cognitive testing. She didn't focus on that because she already had scores from that. But what she was looking at was what was wrong metabolically in my body that was making me not be okay. And so she drew like 26 vials of blood, had it done at a special lab.
The current belief that they're chasing is that Alzheimer's / dementia is caused by something called amyloid plaques in tau tangles. And I'm not so sure. I think that is a symptom of the cause. And so they're trying to get rid of the amyloids, but that's not dealing with the problem. Dale Bredesen says there's 36 possible, things that could cause it. They cause the inflammation, which in turn causes the amyloid. It could be anything from Lyme disease to mold to toxins. He calls it 36 holes in the roof. You just can't fix one or two. You got to fix them all. The problem is finding out what is it that caused the inflammation, which in turn caused the dementia / Alzheimer's. And for Jodie, it appears that it's toxins and mold. And so we're addressing that with liver cleanse and things like that. And so it's not cheap, but I'm thinking, what's the alternative? A nursing home, they're a lot more expensive than this. So that's the path we're going.
So meanwhile, right now, our day-to-day is pretty much just eat one meal a day. Every now and then we might eat a little bit more. But for the most part, it's one meal a day. I exercise every day. My sister-in-law lives really close, so we usually walk between 3 and 6 miles every day. And we try to get good sleep. Sometimes we just pedal around too long and don't go to bed at a decent hour. But there's a lot of treatments we do with all the supplements and the hyperbaric and the sauna. I try to do the sauna every day, and all this is just to help my brain and help me be good and functional. And I feel like it's working.
She was so excited to meet you that she got up early today and exercised, rowing machine, and all that stuff. And then she did the sauna and said, "I've got to be crispy for Dave." So she was, and we want to brag on you for a second. You can keep this in there or not, but your podcast, what you have done for us is to show other people healing naturally and through carnivore and diet. And I'm, you have such a sweet spirit about you, and we can tell that you're concerned and your love for people. And so it comes across, and you are part of a community out there with, Sean Baker and the Steak and Butter Girl and all these other people out there and they are changing lives like they wouldn't believe. Like, we didn't think we'd ever talk to you, and we had no idea. I just happened to see a comment. The girl Eileen, yes, or the Strong, Wise, and Good girl. We saw a comment you made, and here we are. So we're just tickled pink that we get to be here talking to you.
Thank you very much. So how how have other people around you reacted to the change in you, Jody? Like family and friends, have they
Um,
kind of gone, "This is unbelievable"?
They're happy and kind of stunned because I've lost like 60 pounds, mostly from the diet, and then adding that more intense exercises made it better. But me being able to do more intense exercise and walking in the woods and not getting lost and things like that. I've actually had a couple of short solo hikes. I was scared, but I was able to go where I wanted to go, turn around and come back to the car and not get lost. And it's been amazing having the support from the friends and encouragement. And I have a couple of really good friends that talk to me regularly. One friend comes over every week to visit to check on me. We worked together as nurses and in cardiology for a long time. And she's like, I still can't tell you have Alzheimer's. I can't tell. You seem as normal as you always have been. And if you get me on a bad day, it may not be so good, but usually the only thing that screws me up for the most part is if I don't get good sleep, or at least enough,
or you have carbohydrate.
or if I have carbohydrates. Carbohydrates make me fuzzy. So I just can't do it.
And I'm thinking that your listeners, if they think a little bit of bread doesn't matter, I'm here to tell you it matters. It matters huge.
Some people are more sensitive to it than others. I am very sensitive to carbohydrates. Very, very sensitive. So it just ruins my day when I eat something that's not on my.
The other thing, we kind of became, we believe that, we believe that you often get the mission field that you didn't ask for. We didn't ask for this, but we become apostles of the carnivore, and we tell people, anybody who'll listen, and we've kind of backed off a little bit because we can see that their eyes glaze over, and they kind of back away, like, you're like Mooney's at the airport trying to give you a rose, or something like that. And so we try to pick our battles carefully. For me, I have to walk past certain food places quickly because the draw is still there for me. And I still like pizza. I think it is the devil's food because it pulls me in. But then again, other people, we've come across people that are dealing with Alzheimer's or dementia, and we tell them what has done with Jodie, and we get one of two responses. Wow, that's a lot. I don't know if we could do that.
Or,
there's one couple we've met from West Virginia. They're doing exactly what we're doing, and her husband is 83, and he was as bad as Jodie, and he has turned it around too, and he's doing great.
And he stayed at Howe's nursing home.
And he stayed at Howe's nursing home too.
That's how we met.
And that's how we met them, was through Howe. And they're doing great. And they're doing the hyperbaric and doing the carnivore, everything that we're doing, same result. They're doing great.
Wow. So if you were talking to someone, talking to another couple, and one of them was experiencing the early signs of dementia or Alzheimer's, what would you say to them?
Well, Ronald Reagan used to tell jokes all the time. And he told a joke that I think is applicable. He said that there was a cowboy and a new preacher, and the cowboy came to church, and it was the preacher's very first sermon. He was very young. And the preacher, only one guy was there. And he said, I don't know what to do. And the cowboy said, well, I don't know about these things, but if I had a cow that came up to be fed and it was only a cow there, I'd feed it. And he took that as a sign. So he preached for like 2 hours. And and after it was over, the preacher came and said, what was my first sermon? What do you think? How did I do? He says, well, like I said, I don't know about these things, but I do know if one cow showed up, I wouldn't give it the whole load like this. And so I'm thinking, we don't hit them with everything we've done. It's too much. We just go incremental. I'd say first, I would tell them what Jodie used to be, what she is now. And I'd say, you can do this too. If you are interested, this is the first thing we did. And I would just give them, breadcrumbs and lead them eventually to full on carnivore. And because carnivore is the healthiest diet on the planet. That I have no doubt. And in America, it's so hard because so much of our food is just pure garbage. And it's the more I find out about how poisonous our food, spraying glyphosate on all the crops to kill them before they harvest them, putting all the seed oils and stuff in our food, and all the antibiotics and all the things they do to our livestock, and then they feed them this corn that's not fit for human consumption. They feed them that on a feedlot, something, and it's nearly impossible to get clean food in America. But you have to do what you can, because the alternative is a nursing home and a slow, miserable death. But it's either or. Those are your options.
So, Dean and Jody, if people want to reach out to you, is there any way they can get in contact? Do you have any social media?
No, we don't do social media. This is a funny joke. Can I tell them that what happened? I'd never been on Facebook a day in my life. I'm 65. We had a cat that Jody was very attached to that died in December. So I said, I'm going to go on Facebook for the very first time in my life. So I went onto Facebook, and then I didn't even make a friend. I just typed in looking for free kittens in Knoxville. 3 days later, I'm banned from life from Facebook. And I thought, well, maybe it's a sex term or something. I didn't know. Well, they have a ban on livestock and animals. And so I can't use social media now, but I do have a Google website I created last night that someone can email us if they're interested. It's called backfromthedark2024@gmail.com. So if they send an email saying we want to talk to you or whatever, I'll be sure and answer. Once again, it's backfromthedark2024@gmail.com.
No worries. I'll link to that email in the show notes. Dean and Jody, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your stories, and congratulations.
Thank you. You are the man, Dave.
Dave, thank you for doing what you do. You have helped us so much. If we hadn't heard about you and the program you have and the people that you've talked to and what we've learned from them, it's really been encouraging and helpful to us. And we're really glad to get to talk to you. Thank you.